Hello there, and welcome to ACM's Vault of Cult, the movie podcast where we pick old movie that either flopped at the box office or done really badly with critics, that's often kind of forgotten. One that either I or my guest am a big fan of, and then we show it to each other and discuss whether it is actually any good. Sometimes films are ahead of their time and just go under the radar, or is in fact the movie not so good and the cloudy eyes of nostalgia has clouded over our cloudy eyes to make the movie seem like it better than it was. Yes, I'm a rambler, but I'm going to ramble about movies now with a movie with my very special guest, Mr. Chris Asker, Ipswich-based singer, songwriter and all-out entertainer. I've worked with him on some other podcasts in the past, but it's the first time he's come on this one. He's chosen for me the 1991 Bruce Willis vehicle Hudson Hawk. The movie done really badly at the box office, got average to poor reviews, but Chris is not alone being a fan of it. I know several people who are. I had never seen it, as I say, and I don't know why, but we'll discuss that more in the actual interview. I watched it. I'm going to tell you now, I quite enjoyed it. But this is our analysis of Hudson Hawk. Huge thanks to Chris for coming on. Stick it around to the end of the podcast, because he does a cover of one of the songs from the soundtrack as well.
Bruce Willis is back in business.
Thanks for saving me, tough guy.
And business is booming.
I was afraid you weren't going to drop by.
Hudson Hawk,
That excites me.
Check, please.
the best cat burglar that ever lived.
I didn't want to do it. All I wanted was a cappuccino.
But he can't retire
Maybe nobody told you. I quit stealing.
if he wants to keep on living.
This is a brand new tuxedo!
Watch your step. Hold your breath. Hang on for dear life. And catch the Hawk.
Good plan, Junior.
Bruce Willis, Danny Aiello, Andy McDowell. Hudson Hawk.
Sounds like a party.
I'm here with Chris. Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Always a pleasure, never a chore, Andy.
I thought you'd been on this podcast before, but you haven't.
No, I haven't. No.
You've been on two other podcasts with me.
Yeah, this is the first ACM.
Yeah, so have you listened before?
I have indeed.
Oh, cool. Which ones did you listen to?
Oh, all of them.
All of them.
I know I have done. I couldn't remember which one.
Okay. I was hoping for Howard the Duck. I think that was the one I was hoping you'd listen to. But anyway, it's a good film. It's a good film. You're a local musician.
I am.
A local funny man.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
Not as funny as Bruce Willis, obviously.
Well, this is what we're about to talk about. Hudson Hawk, a movie I'd never seen. Can you tell us if you remember the first time you watched it and how?
Do you know, I've been trying to remember. I know how. I just remember it being on TV quite late at night, and I used to record loads of films if a film was on. And I knew I'd never get to watch it because my parents would want to watch what they want to watch.
Yeah.
So I used to record loads of films and watch them. So I saw loads of sometimes quite rubbish films, sometimes quite amazing films. It's the first time I saw THX 1138. It's the same way.
Okay. Yeah.
And yes, I'd recorded it, and then I watched it the next day. It might have been summer holidays actually, so I probably recorded it and then watched it the next day. And I only remember recording it because Bruce Willis was in it, and I quite liked Bruce Willis at the time. I'm not sure if I'd seen Die Hard.
That was what I was about
at
to
that
ask.
point.
Yeah.
I know I would have been probably 13 or 14, I think.
Yeah, so because you probably had. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but yeah.
What did you remember? You've been quite a fan of Bruce Willis. Do you remember the movies of his that you did like before this? Any?
Do you know, again, I can't remember
Yeah.
what. I remember my mum used to watch Moonlighting.
Yeah. But he's one
but-
who it feels like he was in more classic action films than he actually was.
Yeah.
I know later on in his career he'd done a lot sort of for the money, sort of Nick Cage style, but not as good.
Yeah.
But all I can think of is like the Die Hard, Striking Distance, Last Man Standing,
Last Boy Scout.
and Last Boy Scout. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, this seemed a turn being a comedy, but he'd come from Moonlighting,
So
Yeah. I mean,
he done Blind Date was before this as well, I believe.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget that he was a comedy actor first, and that's there was a bit of a brouhaha about him being cast in Die Hard because he was a comedy actor.
Yeah. He's much like the Michael Keaton in the first Batman. There was hell to pay for him, and he proved everybody wrong.
Indeed.
Apart from Tim Burton, who proved right. Right, so you first saw this on TV.
Yep.
It was on quite late night, yeah?
I knew it would have been on quite late night, so I recorded it. I know they would have shown probably adverts of it during the day, which probably would have piqued my interest, maybe.
Yeah.
And then they probably would have taken all the best bits. And then, I just remember recording it and watching it. Probably a bit younger than the target audience.
Yeah. Well, this is stuff that I want to speak about later, the audience for this film. But first, should we just sort of run over the plot? This is I want you to do that, because I didn't know what the hell was going on most of the time.
Yeah, so the plot of Hudson Hawk in as short a space as possible. So you have Hudson Hawk is a cat burglar who comes out of prison and wants to try and be clean. His best friend is a former con as well, who now owns a upmarket bar / coffee shop, played by Danny Aiello. And he gets somehow embroiled in this plot by two billionaires to steal Leonardo da Vinci's gold-making machine. And in the process of that, gets caught up with a bunch of CIA agents who are all really stupid but named after chocolate bars for some reason. I am trying to sell this film, honestly. Yeah. And he also gets embroiled in a conspiracy involving the Vatican and a hot nun played by Andy McDowell.
Yeah.
Whose job is to seduce him even though she's a nun.
Yeah, this is... I will cover straight off of my opinion. I'm going to say it earlier. My opinion of this film is it is pretty rubbish, but I really liked it. That's how I'd like to. And if I'd have seen it at a young age like you did, I bet I would have loved it. Just quickly before we discuss more about the film, I just want to give you the ratings of it. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. 5.7 out of 10 on IMDb. So I've got all different pages up here because I should have put it in my notes and I forgot. 2.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so about the same.
About the same, yeah.
And 31% on Rotten Tomatoes. But as I always say, Rotten Tomatoes is mainly critics, so I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's sort of... It's not a good review, it got average. Yeah. And I know when it came out, critics didn't like it. But I do think that it was popular with people. But because of... This is what I was going to say before. I generally saw it as... It looked like a film... A comedy for, like, 8-year-olds... with swearing and violence in. Swearing and violence in. Because the villains are very cartoony. But they swear. And it's slapsticky, it's very silly. A bit people always mention is the singing. Yeah. So I think people would have gone in as Die Hard fans of Die Hard. Yeah. And then seen this, and it's not necessarily that they didn't like it. They think they didn't like it because it isn't what they was expecting. Yeah. Much like, as mentioned on the previous podcast film I will keep referring to, The Cable Guy, people didn't like because it wasn't Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. Yeah. They went in expecting it, and probably because it was kind of sold like it. And looking at the poster of, which was everywhere, the Hudson Hawk poster, or a couple of posters, that to me doesn't say comedy. No. You know, so I think, yeah, if the same film was made with, I don't know, Dan Aykroyd or something, it might have been better received. Not saying it would have made more money, but critically it might have done, and people would have known what they were getting. But do you see it as that, as like a... it's a very, very muddled film. I kind of see it as almost a beautiful disaster. Because it was a passion project of Bruce Willis, and the composer, who was a friend of Bruce Willis, who they got together and used to play together, and
he was a jazz musician. He used to write songs, and Bruce Willis used to turn up and play his harmonica and sing and stuff.
He does like the music, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Was this around the time as he was recording and that as well?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So it came about because they had this idea about a singing cat burglar,
which is funny.
Yeah, it is. I suppose that's the bit I should explain if anyone who's not seen it, which I forgot to put in my synopsis. So when they're doing their cat burglary, and this is possibly my favourite part of the entire film, this whole concept, is that, they keep time whilst cat burglaring by singing a song of that exact length, because Bruce Willis's character remembers the length of every single song ever recorded.
Yeah, this is going back to when this was made, 1991. Jukeboxes would have still been quite often records.
Yeah.
So each song would have had the time on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that till afterwards, that, it's easier to remember the time of a song then, because it was there in front of you. I know, I was like, I want to check. Have they just made up the length? But I'm sure it's right.
So I got distracted there by talking about the songs. But it's a very muddled film because it was a passion project for Bruce Willis. They brought in, a great writer, a great director, kind of flesh out the story. But it was, I think Bruce Willis has said it was, a tribute to the classic heist movies, which it has definitely got elements of that, but also he wanted to bring in his more zany comedy, I think probably because he felt that had gone on the wayside, maybe since he'd become an action star.
Yeah, and he was a very big star at the time.
Yeah.
And I like it when an actor has the passion project, and he's got this film made. And for that, good on him. And it proves he's got a sense of humour. There's some really wacky stuff in this film. Chases the lot, and it's kind of, some of the sequences, when you think about it, aren't far away from the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I compare some of the bits to that kind of...
People forget that the Blues Brothers wasn't a hit when it came out as well. Whereas this, it hasn't become the cult classic I think it should be. That's why it's perfect. I mean, you selected this film, and it's perfect for this podcast, because it's certainly... I would probably end up picking the DVD up, and I will be lending it to people. I don't want to word it like I think they'd love it or I think they'd enjoy it, and I think there's a difference, because it's an enjoyable ride, but it doesn't all add up, and you can't. Is it a good film? Isn't it? Doesn't matter. It's fun.
Yeah,
and isn't that the point of a comedy?
I mean, I always like. I think I said it when we did a podcast previously on one of your other channels for the Blues Brothers. I think one of the things I love about the Blues Brothers, and why I love Hudson Hawk so much, is I like adult or real life films that have a comic book, or not a comic, like a cartoon aspect to the violence and the slapstick comedy and stuff.
Yeah.
I just like that, and that's why I would say the same for stuff like Lock, Stock and Two Smoke and Barrels and stuff like that. It's almost... It doesn't feel like violence because it's almost like cartoony. Yeah. And I really like films that do that.
It reminded me of a film that is like that. Sam Raimi's, I think it's the second film, I think it's called Crime Wave. It really bombed, and everyone's expecting a horror, but it was like a gangstery comedy.
Yeah.
And that's very cartoony, and but also not so cartoony that it's completely daft, if you know what I mean. Like, say... George of the Jungle, it's not that cartoony, but it's got that. You never. It's like the violence and stuff. It doesn't feel. It's hard to explain, but it's like you don't think, oh, they've got hurt. You giggle,
and some of it's quite horrific in Hudson Hawk.
In America, it would have been an R-rated movie. I'm guessing it's 15.
I imagine so. Because some of the violence is, and obviously
some of the F-bombs.
Some of the F-bombs.
The villains, I want to talk about them. It's Richard E. Grant and an actress who I always forget the name of.
Sandra Bernhard.
Yeah, I thought she was brilliant, and he was good.
I'm not sure he would agree with his performance on that, but
this is the guy who worked with Steve Martin and slagged him off in his book, so I haven't got much time for him. But I do, as an actor, I do like him. I thought he was really good, and she was fantastic. She was like... 60s Batman villain.
Oh, totally.
Which is what I want in a film. And Richard E. Grant was I think she stood out, but he was still really good.
He's chewing the scenery like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's enjoying himself.
Yeah, it turns out afterwards he didn't enjoy himself at all.
Because it wasn't a hit.
Well, probably, yeah.
But it didn't actually do as badly as I thought. It didn't... It made its budget back, at least, sort of. Well, it cost 65 million, which is a lot for 1981.
Yeah.
And it made 97 million.
Okay.
But to turn a profit, you have to make twice your budget, I believe. But often, movies we've done on here have cost like 30 million, they've made 6 million. I think one was it Supergirl was actually 31 million or something and made 12 million or something like that. Something like that. I can't remember offhand. Go back and listen to previous episodes to find out. Or Google it, but I'd rather you listen. So it was a failure, but not to the extent of other movies. And it was one that I remember back in the days of rental, the poster was always in the shops, the cardboard cutouts. So I reckon it might have done well afterwards.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it would probably made his money back on streaming. Is it remembered though? This is the question.
Well, I talked to enough people, and I don't know. It's probably at a 50-50 if people remember it. Some people remember it, but don't remember seeing it.
Yeah.
Which tells me they didn't see it, because I think you'll certainly remember at least one or two bits of that film. This is certainly standout bits. So
it was a week ago I watched it, and I made some scribbles which I can't read very well in my notes. I remember bits of it well, the enjoyable, fun comedy, but I couldn't. The plot, I was like, what? But one thing I did with the budget, it starts off almost like medieval, doesn't it?
Yes.
And they've built these sets, and you can tell it's a high budget film. And I think they didn't need to. They could have just like read that bit in a book.
Yeah.
So it was like overconfidence on the filmmaker's part, possibly.
Yeah.
That Bruce Willis is in it, it's going to be a big hit. But I think it's better to go into a big film overconfident and just do what they wanted to do. And I don't know if it was edited or changed or anything from their vision.
As far as I'm aware, not hugely. I mean, I know it quite moved away from the original script because Bruce Willis kept coming up with funny ideas. But to be fair, it's the funny ideas which is the best part of the film, and you can definitely tell there's Bruce Willis's style of comedy in there, which generally lands. A couple of lines stand out which don't land.
But one bit, I don't know if it's meant to be funny, but when he first sees Andy McDowell, he just goes, "Woo!" Which is like, okay. It was almost like the American equivalent of Sid James. But that obviously is supposed to be funny, but it's just there's some right crazy moments. But it's like the there's also one thing I noticed, the foreign dialogue at the beginning isn't subtitled, so you don't know what's going on.
Oh
which is weird. But it starts off with that sort of in the past, and you're like thrown, I think, because you've seen the poster, you've seen it, and that that's what made me think of kids' films as well, because you often get that. Oh, this has happened in the past, backstory. There's a narrator as well.
The narrator of Rocky and Bullwinkle. And it's his last ever voice performance.
Fact.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and that made it feel more like a kids' film. There's it's like slapstick cartoon sound effects in some points, which I love. And Frank Stallone's in it.
And Frank Stallone is in it. I think this is. Which is the better cameo for you, Frank Stallone being in it, or the guy from The Butcher from Coronation Street who used to go, I say.
Was he in it? Was he?
Yeah, he was the auctioneer.
I knew him. Yeah, I actually looked him up, but on Letterboxd, not IMDb, so I wouldn't have TV stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're both amazing. Who's the better singer? Frank Stallone. Probably the chap from
Coronation Street. Yeah.
Frank Stallone is such a great musician. He's got a song in the Nam movie.
Brilliant.
Yes. Weird. Yeah. Well, I've just made some notes about some really weird things, like I've got here. Dog attacking Andy. kicked through a window.
Yes.
I didn't like that bit. Dog got hurt.
It doesn't get kicked through a window.
Oh, thrown through a window?
No, it's the whole bunny ball, and then it's a tennis ball shooting machine, and then it jumps to catch the ball and gets thrown out the window. Did you really pay attention to this film?
Yeah. I've got. Well, does that say kicked? You can see my notes. Could say anything.
No, it just says something for a window. Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be anything. So. Nah. But even that, jokes aside, it's animal cruelty, but in a film like this, it's funny.
Yeah,
it's like the bit in Anchorman with Baxter.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can get away with it. But it's just so silly. But that's it. Butterfinger I want to talk about.
Butterfinger, the guy who played Zangief in Street Fighter.
Yeah, he's like a combination, this character, of Bebop and Rocksteady from the Turtles. And he was funny. I think that character worked.
I don't know why. I think one of the funniest parts of the film is when Hudson Hawk makes this list of how he's going to break into the Vatican, and one of them he wants his stamps, and then he comes out of. They all punch him because it's an ongoing thing that they all punch him when they leave and like electrocute him. That's the ongoing joke. But then the Zangief Butterfingers turns up. He's like, "I've got your stamps," and all the stamps are stuck over his face. And then Bruce Willis goes, "Thanks, Yogi." I don't know why I find that so funny, but that is one of the funniest lines.
It just makes no sense.
Yeah.
But Bruce Willis's performance, I don't know. So parts of it, I'm like, he's just being Bruce Willis, which works. Then he sort of goes into John Travolta mode at some points, and it's just like he's like, it's like moments where he's just going along with it, and then there's moments where you think he's really enjoying himself.
Yeah,
they're the bits he wrote.
I think probably yes.
Yeah. So does he think highly of the film still? Have you read any interviews?
I think he kind of. From what I've seen, I've never seen him say anything bad.
Yeah.
Or read anything that he said anything bad about it. End day, it was his passion project. I think I've not seen him say anything bad.
Yeah,
so.
and he's not blaming. Sometimes they'll be like, the studio messed about, like I said, but it doesn't look like there's anything like that.
No,
he probably is proud of it. But he done it, he got it made. Move on, make some money. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. Well, Richard E. Grant though, what you was telling me before, what he said about it.
So you're Richard E. Grant, not a fan. So Mark Kermode, as you would expect with a film like this, of course, Mark Kermode absolutely adores this film.
Yeah.
And there was a story that Mark Kermode was interviewing Richard E. Grant and just happened to say, "You're in Hudson Hawk. I really like that film." And Richard E. Grant's response was, I won't do the impression. His response was, "That is a big steaming pile of donkey do. You, sir, are an idiot."
Yeah.
Which is, I think, harsh.
Yeah. I don't.
I mean, it wasn't like he seemed to be going along for the ride. Yeah. His performance. He seemed to be hamming it up as much as anybody else.
And it must have been one of his early Hollywood roles.
I imagine so. 91. So
yeah. What year was with Nell and I?
Late 80s.
Yeah. So this would have been one of his earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have affected his career badly. But if you've seen the film Jack and Sarah, that might have done. So, yeah. But it's one that I don't know how I went 32 years without seeing it. Because it was just. So you saw it on TV, the video was everywhere. I liked Bruce Willis. It was before the days of. Now, when I miss a film, if I miss it at the cinema, I tend to only watch films at cinema unless it's re-watching something older. So I just don't know. But I'm very glad I watched it. But I was just sort of left a bit like, what was it? It was, and also the song you're going to do. Well, I'll put it on at the end of the episode. You're going to sing the song from it.
I'll sing one of the songs from it. Yeah.
Which song are you going to sing?
So "Swinging on a Star."
Do you know? I don't know much. Everyone knows the song.
Yeah.
I know it from a sitcom in the late 80s, early 90s. Do you remember the sitcom? It was the theme to it.
No.
No, it was called Out of This World.
Right.
With an alien girl who could freeze time. Do you remember this?
No,
She put her fingers together and it would freeze time. And her mum was human and her dad lived on another planet. And she spoke to the dad through this, like, crystal ball thing. And it was voiced by... It wasn't credited, but it was voiced by Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
You should look that up. That was... Doug McClure was in it. And... Donna Pascoe, who was in Saturday Night Fever. It's a forgotten sitcom.
You had me at Turd Ferguson, to be honest.
Yeah. Norm Macdonald reference.
There you go, Norm Macdonald reference. Took us this long to actually get one in.
Yeah. So everyone knows this song, but I know it from that, and that's something that's quite forgotten.
Right.
But do you know who done it originally?
Bing Crosby did a famous version of it.
So one of those songs that everybody would have done.
Yeah, I remember my mum singing it to me.
Yeah.
When I was young. I remember it being around when I was a little kid.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's just one of those. But there's a few songs in it, but this is when I've mentioned I'm doing a podcast on this film. That's what people mentioned. That bit,
Swinging on a Star.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was in the trailer or not, but we'll have played the trailer before this episode, but I haven't recorded it yet, so we can't. So I don't know. I want to mention the ambulance scene. That was insane. Hey, mister, are you going to die?
Yeah, that's the brilliant part of it. The awful part of it is, how's my driving? 1-800, I'm going to fucking die! Which is just one of the worst lines. Yeah. Poorly delivered as well.
Yeah. And the fact you've said that line, I was going to not put the explicit on this episode. And then if we got any complaints, blame Richard E. Grant for that quote.
Okay.
But never mind.
I said Donkey Do.
Yes, I mean, but if we got any complaints, I'd be like, that's Richard E. Grant's fault for saying Donkey Do. But at least you didn't say, no, I'm not going to do that. But that's all good. It's all good. I just want to make that joke at the end. But I'll put it in now. And, I just saw the new Transformers film, and there's a human in it who befriends one of the Transformers. And this is a kids' film, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
And they sort of fall out, and he says, because when he was in the car, he was inside it, wasn't he? So he said, how can you say that after you've been inside me? They make that joke.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like,
wow.
But the thing is, there was a big laugh in the cinema, but the cinema was me, two guys who must have been in their 60s, and a lady who'd have been about 50. So we were like, at the same time. All this woke humour. Influential. Do you think this film was influential and ahead of its time?
It's influential. No. No, it can no way be seen as influential. Ahead of its time. Again, what's it? I don't know. I guess maybe. Do
you think it influenced the filmmakers not to let Bruce Willis write film?
Well, it's his only writing credit.
Is it? I'm going to look that up. Yeah.
It is his only writing credit, and it's only story by Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I mean,
but he did write lines for all the Die Hard films and stuff.
Okay, so
he did.
Yeah, but it seems like I know. Yeah, I don't dwell on poor bloke's not well now, is he? And
no.
But back in the day, he put everything into the films. He was clearly dedicated to his craft, and I was quite surprised that he didn't do more actual writing. And I'm hoping that it wasn't just because of the reception of this that it put him off.
I mean, because he's well known. If you see interviews with him as well, particularly, but he's well known for having a very quick and clever wit and being very sharp. And I know he was a lot of moonlighting. He improvised. Yeah. And obviously the funnier parts of Die Hard and all the quips in Die Hard were all improvised by him. Yeah. As well, so he's kind of known as that funny guy. Yeah. But I've maybe him trying to write a film. Yeah. Was maybe too much. Yeah. Do
you want to know what the New York Times said about it?
I would love to.
This release. A colossal, sour and ill-conceived misfire. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty much what we've said.
I mean, it is ill-conceived. It was a misfire. Was it a misfire? I disagree that it was a misfire. Yeah. I think it did exactly what they wanted to do. Just it was probably a mess from the start.
And they didn't like it for its smirky, mean-spirited cynicism.
Is it cynical?
It's daft, isn't it?
It's not. I wouldn't say cynical. It's just stupid. I mean, there's a few critiques at the CIA and the American government in there, I suppose, but that's really, if you're focusing on that, then you're missing most of the rest of the film.
Another review here has put, it's hard to imagine a major big budget movie that could come along this year and be worse than Hudson Hawk. A solid contender for the longest 95-minute movie in history. That's a bit harsh.
That is harsh.
I don't think it dragged.
No.
There's moments where I was like, well, what's going on? Doesn't matter. Someone's got hit.
Well, there's this weird thing, and it doesn't land the first time, and they do it a second time, it still doesn't land, it's the bit where twice he falls from a building, falls through something, and then lands in a chair in a completely different location.
Yeah, it doesn't...
And then goes... And I'm just like...
I assumed that was...
It's a weird cut.
It's obviously him talking about it later.
Yeah, but it was like... But you actually see him fall into the chair and then react from the fall. It's just... that's the one bit I don't get.
Yeah. It says here as well that basically in With Nails, the Richard E. Grant biography, slags it off.
You're welcome. He was in the Spice Girls movie. I'm just putting that out right now.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Richard E. Grant, people in glass houses shouldn't throw Spice Girls shaped stones.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
You were in Meatloaf's worst movie. Think about that. Meatloaf's worst movie. And Michael Barrymore's best. Probably. I don't know what else he's been in.
Pools.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Have you ever had another person on your podcast that's dragged the tone down so much?
No, but we've got Robin Dicker come on.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Fair.
Yeah, I mean...
Sorry, he's going to edit it out.
No, I won't. It's working it. But, that's humour, and I would like to say that Barrymore didn't do anything wrong.
No, he didn't.
And that's not even joking, he didn't. It was
No. Yeah. We want to clarify 100% Barrymore did nothing wrong.
I actually feel sorry for him, and like Barrymore, I think he's all right. Well, he is.
He is all right,
He's all right. He'd have been better in this than Richard E. Grant. Richard E. Grant was fine in it, but the stuff he said, I'm angrier about Richard E. Grant than in the last podcast. We got a bit angry about Matthew Broderick.
Really?
So, Matthew Broderick was in Ferris Bueller, but I just don't like him. Ferris Bueller I love, and I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, he's calmer in it. He's married to Sarah Jessica Parker. Anyway, I think.
He is, yes.
Yeah. If you're going to remake a film, don't put him in it.
Well, fair.
Apart from the producers was right. Right, so Hudson Hawk. I went off on one, sorry. Scary German guy from the Monster Squad's in it. We've done a podcast on the Monster Squad, I like that. And it's got lots of good character actors sort of popping up and being fine. I don't know. It's I mean, out of 5, what would you give it?
Out of 5, I would... Objectively, 100% objectively, I would agree with the voice of the nation, as it were, the world, and put it a 3. However, is it still one of films that I love more than a lot of other films? Yes, I absolutely love this film. I see its flaws 100%.
Yeah,
but I absolutely love this film.
Yeah. So
for all its flaws.
Are you sticking at a 3 then, or are you going to rate from the heart?
Right from the heart, I would put it as a 4.
A 4. Okay, that's good. So I would give it I'm the newcomer. No nostalgia's clouding my eyes. I'd still give it a 3.5. So which gives it an average of 3.75. Which is good. And higher than the last one, Addicted to Love, which James gave sadly a 2.
Okay.
I was going to give it a 3.5, but it annoyed me he gave it so low, so I gave it a 4. That's why I asked first.
Okay, right.
I cheat the scores so that. But that's good. I'm going to keep a record of the films now from this sort of. We're sort of in the 4th season, which is strange, but covered a lot of films, and I'd like to thank you for picking a film. This is why it's taken so long, because normally I say to people, "I'll choose me a film," and then they don't, and then we don't do a show. Whereas you did straight away, because originally you was going to do Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
I was,
and I don't know what happened, but I'd done it anyway without you.
You did, yeah.
So I apologise. But anything else you want to add about Hudson Hawk?
Not really. I just think it is a beautiful disaster of a film. If people haven't seen it, I think you need to see it. I would be surprised anybody who goes into it with an open mind, who just wants a funny, slapstick, silly film, would not like it. If you go in expecting to, see a masterpiece, if you go into expecting to see Bruce Willis as an action hero, any of that stuff, if you're expecting to see a solid plot, you're not going to find that, but you are going to find a very, very enjoyable 90 minutes of just silliness and fun and singing. And Frank Stallone.
To be fair, it's probably his most successful film.
Probably is.
But I thought it was just so much fun, and quite hard to get hold of now. Did you got an eBay copy, didn't you?
I had to eBay a copy. I couldn't get it on Amazon. I had to eBay it.
Yeah, is it rentable on a streaming service?
That I don't know. For a while, about 2 years ago,
it was on Netflix.
It was on
Netflix, wasn't it?
I thought it was on Prime. It was on a streaming service for free.
Yeah, if you subscribe.
If you subscribed, obviously.
Yeah. But I'm a physical man. I like physical copies, and one thing I'll do actually on Letterboxd, 466 people have given it half a star, the lowest rating.
Wow.
But 521 have given it 5 stars. So that proves numbers count, don't they?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, on a website that is, I would say, a website full of very sweeping judgments on films. Yeah, which it is.
I mean, Letterboxd is.
I would give it a 5 on Letterboxd. To piss off the haters, I'd give it a 5.
But there's no proper reviews anymore. It's just people trying to be funny. The top review on Letterboxd just says the Da Vinci Code for arseholes.
It's better than Da Vinci Code. I want to pay right now. I'm betting that's why I will fucking die on that cross. That is better than the Da Vinci Code.
Because we said there's nothing much. But if we didn't say it while recording, there's not many films like it.
No.
Do you want to see what films are like it?
Go on then.
Similar films. Spy, starring Melissa McCarthy.
No.
Red Notice with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds.
No.
Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. Get Smart, maybe.
That I would agree. Get Smart. Yeah.
The Spy Who Dumped Me.
God.
I like that. What are you doing? That was right. And the Massive Talent one, Nick Cage in.
No.
Also, apparently, it's like Johnny English.
Yeah, I see that.
For Love and Thunder.
Okay, yeah.
No.
It's got music in it. Is that what they're thinking?
So they just put basically they've just said like bad boys.
Like Johnny English, I get that totally. Yeah. I think that's a fair comparison.
I suppose it's a different style of comedy, but
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more of a plot to Hudson Hawk than I think there is in Johnny English.
I am. This is the truth, right? The 2 Johnny English films. First one, I fell asleep in cinema. The second one, there was a fire alarm went off, and I was pleased. So there we go.
Rat Race. Rat Race
is cool.
Yeah, but it's not as good as Hudson Hawk. But they're very similar.
No, but it has got Dean Cain in it.
It has got all Republicans' favourite Superman, Dean Cain.
Yeah, and John Lovitz, who ends up accidentally getting a Hitler moustache put on him.
Yeah. Oh!
Yeah.
Sorry.
I like Rat Race. That's cool. Just we haven't mentioned the director. I totally forgot.
We haven't.
I am now a fan. I did not realise. What was his name?
Michael Lehrman.
Michael Lehrman. I didn't realise that he directed both Heathers and Airheads.
Yeah.
And this.
Yes.
I don't think I've seen any of the other films. But those three good films. Three very good films. Airheads is totally underrated. That made like £1 at the box office, and it's so good.
I think that's probably why he made it. I think that's probably why, especially the start, is so epic, and certain parts of it are quite epic. Because I think the film before this was Heathers.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, Heathers was 89 or 90,
so it may well have been.
Yeah, he might have done one in between.
Which obviously is quite low budget, quite.
Yeah, that's
straight shot kind of. It's got a little bit of a directorial.
Yeah.
Ness to it, but obviously it was quite low budget, and it's quite obviously they've probably been inflicted budget. So when Bruce Willis comes along, say, "Here, take all my money."
Yeah.
He ran with it, I guess.
He's probably sip a martini watching Heathers, like, ha ha! Yes. I miss Christian Slater. He was good, wasn't he? He was like the actor Jack Nicholson could have been. No, he was good. He was my favourite Will Scarlet. In Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Pump Up the Volume was wicked. That's one that I've been wanting to do a podcast on for ages. Have you seen Pump Up the Volume?
No.
You should watch Pump Up the Volume. It's great. It's about a DJ who DJs and causes trouble. So, just what I think. This is something I always ask James.
Yes.
When he's guest on the show, and he can never give me an answer because I put him on the spot. Have you watched any movies recently that you think will go on to become cult classics, or should go on to?
That I've seen recently.
Recent movies, because we mainly talk about old films.
See, I don't see many recent films. I'm not, you or James.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what. Not any particularly recently. I mean, probably the last thing I saw that I was like. That I'd never heard of, that I randomly ended up seeing, and I think could become a cult classic, possibly. But then nobody's probably ever heard of it. It's a Pierce Brosnan film called Matador.
I saw it in cinema. That might surprise you.
Yeah.
That's probably about 15 years old, I think.
10, 15 years old. That's the last thing I can remember.
Yeah. But you enjoyed that one?
I enjoyed it. Oh, well, obviously, D'Artagnan and the Three Muskehounds.
We saw that in the cinema.
That masterpiece of cinema.
That was good. They took all the drinking out.
They did.
If you're going to have a cartoon dog, let the dog drink.
Yeah.
That cartoon series was great. They were getting pissed up all the time, fighting and singing and fighting. And what they should have done in it though was have a drunk dog chase his own tail and get really confused, and they didn't do that.
No.
But that was a great film. Yeah, I think we're just waffling now.
We are just waffling now, yeah.
No final things on Hudson Hawk?
Just if you've not seen it, watch it. If you have watched it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about and how amazing it is. Any other film that I'd always love? Film
recommendations from your past for me?
You've probably seen them all, because I was surprised that you hadn't seen this, because our Mac and Me. Have you seen Mac and Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I love Mac and Me.
What else did I don't know. Escape to Victory.
Got the Blu-ray. It's behind you.
Of course.
But on that bombshell, we shall end the podcast. Don't forget to follow ACM's Vault of Cult on Instagram, Spotify. You should probably listen, but follow it. Give us a rating, 5 stars, please. It helps. It really does help. And Facebook. We're on all of those. And you can follow Chris Asker's music on
Instagram, Chris Asker Music, Facebook, Chris Asker. I'm on TikTok. I know. Who's that? TikTok-y. Chris Asker Music.
Character from Return to Oz. Carry on.
It was Character from Return to Oz. That film was horrific. All those good places. You can find me there.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about the man, Chris the Man, go to Faces of Suffolk podcast on Spotify. It's quite a couple of years ago now, but we've done a full interview with you.
Yeah, we did. Indeed.
So, thank you all for listening. Spread the word. Any views on Hudson Hawk, put them in the comment section on either platform. And I think you can message Spotify. I think you can do that.
These modern technologies.
So Bellis, Matt Bellamy, not from...
Not Matt Bellamy, no.
No, nothing. I'm not amused. Would leave voicemails on it. I don't know if it still does that or not. I don't check. I've probably got loads of messages. Probably haven't. Thank you very much. And this is your rendition of the theme tune from sitcom Out of This World.
Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar? You'd be better off than you are. Or would you rather be a mule? A mule is an animal with long funny ears. He kicks up to anything he hears. His back is brawny and his brain is weak. He's just plain stupid with a stubborn streak. And if you don't get well to school, you might grow up to be a mule. Would you like to swing on a star? Harry moonbeams home in a jar. You'll be better off than you are. Or would you rather be a pig? The pig is an animal with dirt on his face. His shoes are a terrible disgrace. He has no manners when he eats his food. He's fat and lazy and extremely rude. But if you don't care a fig or a fig, you might grow up to be a pig. Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar? You'd be better off when you are. You could be swinging on a star. You could be swinging on a star.